Once you've been assigned a paper topic, your next step will be to actually narrow that topic down. Most assigned research topics are broad so that you can find something within that topic that's interesting to you, that's researchable and manageable. So this tutorial is designed to help you go from an idea to an outline, how to narrow down your topic and to get started with organizing your thoughts and some research. In this tutorial, I've included 4 steps. The first step is pre-search. That's the act of doing initial investigation of the topic to help you narrow down within that huge topic something that is manageable. So then the next step would be narrowing down what you found in your pre-search. The third step is building a concept map, which can be fairly elaborate or just a simple list of terms and ideas and things that you want to make sure and include in your paper. And then the fourth is an outline of the structure of your paper. So step 1, pre-search, again, just pre-investigating your topic to sort of figure out what within that topic would be interesting to you. Some places you can begin are your textbook. That's a great place to start to find basic points and ideas for further investigation. Google, also a pretty easy and quick resource to use. You can find related terms, synonyms, and other keywords that deal with your topic. An index in the back of most books will also point you towards pages within that book that deal with a particular keyword or topic. And then last but not least, encyclopedias, also excellent resources to get a sort of broad overview of the topic at hand and then its subtopics underneath it. I'm going to quickly jump into Google so you can see an example. So here I'm looking at violence in human nature. It's pretty big. Once my browser cooperates with me, you can see we've got some websites, some articles. Here's one that I've already clicked on. You can tell it's purple. How Stuff Works. Not necessarily a college-level research resource, but it gives me some good ideas on keywords. So if we look down, it's looking at the animal aspect, discusses how males are usually more violent in the chimpanzee society, and according to this article it's the same in human society, so maybe I would want to look at gender and violence. Scrolling down further, looking at nature versus nurture and seeing how violence might stem from more from nature versus nurture, what we learn from our parents versus genetics. So just Google searching alone has given me a couple of ideas to follow. Next, a lot of students' favorite places to start, not a bad idea, is Wikipedia. In this particular Wikipedia article, I chose the violence article, and then scrolling down within it, I'm seeing violence and prevention, showing relationships with poverty, for example, violence and poverty, violence and income, gender, alcohol and substance abuse, and nurturing relationships between children and parents. So all of those are ideas that I might be able to use to narrow down the huge topic of violence and human behavior. So once you've done this pre-searching and you have a list of synonyms and keywords and terms, then you can start the narrowing process. So based on what you figured out from pre-searching, you can pick something that seems interesting, something that you wouldn't mind researching. That's a really important piece of the narrowing process, is you need to choose something that isn't boring to you. So something that you can relate to, or that you at least know can hold your interest while you go through this whole process. So here I've jotted down some of the ideas I found from my pre-search. I start with my huge topic, violence in human nature, and then I go down and say, okay, aggression and nature versus nurture. What about aggression and gender? Maybe violence and cultural values, or maybe violence and poverty. And so then I could pick one of these and move forward. In this example, I've chosen violence and poverty. And so step 3 after narrowing is the concept map. So here I've put violence and poverty in the middle, And then I've sort of thrown out on these little triangles here other elements that I discovered in my pre-search. So I want to look at maybe reverse cause and effect. What comes first, poverty or violence? Reduced resources for communities or for individuals and how that affects violence. Unemployment, a big one, and how that plays into violence and of course poverty. And then these subtopics that I also want to make sure and include in my paper based on what I found in my pre-search. And it can just be a simple little map so that you can kind of keep track of all those things that you learned in your pre-search so that you don't lose them. And then you can move on to your fourth step, which is the outline. Outlines can be very simple or very complex. They can be just a list of words or actual sentences or paragraphs. It's really up to you and your instructor. There are examples of outlines at the OWL at Purdue University. If you Google OWL, Purdue, and outlines, you'll find the link to the web page. It's a great resource, and not just for this particular piece of research, but for many pieces of research and writing. But don't get stuck in a template, just get something down on paper. So as you can see here, I've got Roman numerals and subtopics, and they should all sort of mirror the map, the concept map that I made. So you can see I've got my unemployment here, my reduced resources, the cause and effect aspect. And so in this way I've gone from a huge topic, the violence in human nature, pre-searched it, narrowed down after I pre-searched, built a concept map, and then developed a quick outline, and now I'm ready to move on to the next step of the research process.